Welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm your host this evening, and I'm a commercial banker. And with me is my co-host, James Chan. James, a consultant with Asia Marketing Company. Welcome, James. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Paul.
We've got some interesting things to talk about for the show.
Yep.
And we kind of did a little preparation. We're going to talk about some small business issues.
Sure.
I mean, small business is a key to the U.S. economy. People are forming new businesses all the time. All kinds of small businesses. I mean, some people want to sell T-shirts or something like that to consumers. Other people want to start a company and hopefully employ 100 or 200 people and make widgets or something like that. And other people, perhaps, maybe they got laid off by their large corporate employer after 25 years of lots of experience and expertise, and think, I could be a valuable consultant to other businesses sharing my expertise.
That is absolutely correct.
And that's a business-to-business aspect.
Right.
And I think that's what we want to talk about today. James, you've been a consultant to businesses for decades.
Well, I started in '83, so
Yes.
yeah, decades.
So there's a lot of experience there. You've learned a lot of things.
A few things.
What works.
Not everything.
Certainly what doesn't work.
Right. Yes, I do. And Paul, we've known each other for quite some time.
Yes.
I really forget. It could be 10, 15 years.
Yes.
But over the years, we have had so many conversations. And one of the topics in our conversation that struck me as extremely important is when you are a small business, going out and prospecting,
Right.
you can't afford to believe or treat everybody as a prospect.
That's
In
right.
other words, not every person, you said it, I didn't say it, not every person is a customer.
Right.
Not every person should be looked upon
Right,
as a
right.
customer. Why?
Well, even as a commercial banker, I mean, I've been on my own for a while and facing the same type of issues you have.
Right.
But also, as a commercial banker, relationship manager, where I call on small and medium-sized businesses, it's the same thing. Are they all good prospects? Are they all going to be good customers?
Right.
As in sales or business development, we think that a healthy, deep pipeline, lots of prospects, is what we want to develop. And from there, we'll develop our business.
Right.
So if you have, let's say, 20 prospects, you think, oh, my business is good. But what's your experience?
Well, yeah, no, you actually, because in my beginning years, like I started in '83, and in the first 15 years, I constantly made the mistake of viewing a lot of companies as potential clients.
Right.
But that actually was wrong. And what was wrong was that I spent equal time trying to convince people that they would need me.
Right.
When in fact, the idea seems logical, but in reality, it isn't. It isn't. I should have done more homework on whether or not certain companies,
Right.
probably only a handful of them, would be in a position to understand what I'm doing, let alone paying me to get
But
my
at the
service.
same time, as long as they're prospects, as long as you haven't gotten I'm not going to do business with you, James. You're not good, you're not appropriate, I don't like you, for whatever reason.
Yep.
You think, oh, they're a prospect, so I'll keep them on the list, I'll call them, I'll send them some emails, or I'll send them a letter, or give them a phone call, in a month, and that type of thing. And much of that effort and time totally wasted because they were never going to be a customer of yours. And it wouldn't have even been a good fit. If they had said, perhaps, gee, I'll give you a try, you might have said, okay, I'll take them on because I want business.
Right.
You really have to, we found out we have to qualify if the prospect could be a good customer,
Right.
an appropriate customer
Right.
for you or for me, for
Right.
our businesses.
But qualifying itself is a task. It's not that easy to find out, particularly for early stage entrepreneurs, people who want to start their own things and run their own companies. That is the hard part. That's why I asked you. It's a very important point because if people get it right, they are more able to deploy their energy. When you are a small business, you really can't afford to have too much time to work on everybody.
Right. So I guess some examples might be, maybe that prospect doesn't have the money in the budget. Maybe they have somebody else in mind, that it's a brother-in-law.
Right.
Lots of other issues. And maybe they're not even very honest people. Maybe they're unethical.
As you were talking, one very concrete example came to mind. In the beginning years of my practice, I would try to target everybody in the United States of America.
That-
Chicago,
and you
San
were-
Francisco,
you were gonna
Los
tell them-
Angeles,
and you were gonna tell them how to-
New York City. And so I would spend so much time unnecessarily, and in fact, without any effort or results, because later on, as I accumulated enough experience, kissing the frog, so to speak,
right.
being able to distinguish and differentiate which is likely and which is not likely, I finally came to the realization for what I do. My best clients are likely to be within 2 hours driving distance from Philadelphia.
Sure.
In other words, why should I spend enormous amount of effort, time, energy focusing on the entire United States? Why not 2 hours drive from Center City?
Sure. And the kind of consulting you have done is advising companies on how to do business in China.
Selling American-made products and services to China and other Asian
So
countries.
it's a very, very defined.
very defined, and not
expertise.
everybody needs it or wants
Right,
it or
right.
even understand what I'm doing.
Tell about the story about the one prospect that kept inviting you back, and you were so excited about. Oh yes, this is going to be a good customer.
Well, I mean, I have a range of customers, and the one I have a customer that's been ongoing for since 1984. Like my numbers, this is 2017, so you're talking about 34 years, 33 years, and in the beginning I would work on an hourly basis, as my guest Gary probably will also tell you. You know, most people when they first offer services, you bill by the hour,
Right, like a
then
lawyer.
like a lawyer,
Yeah.
and then you graduate from an hourly basis to a project basis work, and then from there you get your retainer, meaning over a long period of time, much like buying insurance, you know, a retainer. And so I guess the point I want to make now is not only do we have to learn how to qualify prospects, but we can treat all customers the same. Not all customers require the same level of penetration, of intimacy, of being personal and professional. It is very worthwhile to be able to tell customers who will come to you year in, year out. Case in point, I have a client that is still ongoing since 1984. I have another client that lasted for 24 years. I have 2 other clients that have been with me for 10 years and ongoing. Those are the examples I want to talk about.
So you're not going to take that for granted and say, well, they've been with me for 10 years, therefore they're never going to leave. They just love me or
Of course,
something.
no, of course not. But on the other hand, I'm not going to go out and prospect 50 others in the hope that, you know, I can find more.
Yeah.
I have to pay attention to the clients who love me the most. Simply put.
So you have a finite number of customers you could handle.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to hire 3 more people to do what you do.
I could if I
take
wanted
another
to,
20
but
or
on the
something.
other hand, if a big company came along, my gut feeling would tell myself that the big company is going to make use of me for a very short period of time. So I'm not going to ignore my most beloved clients for the sake of paying all my attention to the big company.
Well, it sounds like both issues, whether it's defining what could be a good prospect to be a good customer, or how much time you spend with an existing customer, you must spend a good amount of time and be very disciplined in terms of an evaluation process. Every few weeks, every couple of months, you sort of sit down and say, what's going on here?
Daily.
Daily.
It's a daily thought. No more than, saying prayer. Daily.
Whether you like to or not. I mean,
Whether I like to or
as
not.
an entrepreneur, a small business owner, you like to do what you like to do,
Yep.
but there are things that
Yeah.
require you to
Yeah.
be
I
disciplined.
don't find it hard because I accept it as part of life. I'm running a life. I'm not just running a business.
Yeah. Interesting. So what's your advice to somebody that wants to start a small business next week? What should they do?
They have to want to do what they want to do. I don't think that the successful person, I don't like to use the word entrepreneur because it just abused. It has too many meanings. I think without passion, without devotion, you're not going to make it because it's hard to prospect. As our guest is talk about it later.
Well, I think also it's important that you have to have deep expertise in the field, the industry, whatever you would call it, that you're going to go into. I mean, I know some years ago somebody asked me for advice. They had been with the company for about 10 years, and the company was sold, and they were out of the job. He said, well, I want to start my own business in that field then. I said, well, the first thing you've got to do then is write down, tell me, and tell yourself, who are your prospective customers that you could call up today, and that you could tell me, I'm going to start a business, would you deal with me? Now, they're not going to guarantee it, but if they say, you start a business, we're going to talk.
Devotion.
And tell me how much business that'll generate. Don't just go out and hang out at Shingle and say, okay, I've got some expertise, I've got this experience, I'll be accepted and welcomed in the business. I said, you've got to be much more defined, specific than that, because the most difficult thing to do is to get customers, generate revenues. Without that, nothing else happens or matters.
That's why not every person who goes into business succeeds. That's why. It's a hard task, not for the non-intrepid souls.
Faint of heart, right?
No. So.
And another aspect I think we chatted about was you talk to other people. I mean, you're pretty much a sole practitioner as a consultant.
I am.
But you don't operate in a vacuum. You talk to other people on an informal basis, kind of whether it's advisors or mentors or others in terms of what. How does that work? How do you choose them?
It worked wonderfully. Well, I run a business as a consultant, so I sort out a group of people who are like-minded, who are also consultants, and for at least 18 years, I participated in their activities.
Some good advice.
Very important.
Yep. We have a question from one of our viewers.
Okay.
And I think it's sort of right up your alley, James.
Okay.
The question is from Robert Timmons of Philadelphia, and he asks, what are some growth trends in China?
A number. I think that the first one I would mention and emphasize is you can't believe the just the devotion nowadays in China of mobile payment. Everybody uses his or her cell phone, smartphone to buy things, to order cabs, to pay for restaurant, to loan one another money. And this kind of mobile payment is 5,000 times more active in China than in America. I feel like I'm behind, In fact, even though I'm also a smartphone user, but I have never, believe it or not, used my smartphone to pay. I mean, I use my credit cards. I pay online. But I do use my smartphone to deposit checks. And then one thing I'm wearing this for a reason. Among the denizens of this mobile payment universe in mainland China, there is a Chinese code called 520. And 520 means I love you, because 520 in Chinese, 520 sounds like 我爱你, which is the Chinese for I love you.
That's a great story.
I love this.
So you wear it. So if I go to China, should I or should I not wear that?
I think you should wear it if you want to attract attention. So
very good. That's very good. So we welcome other questions. If you have a question you would like to send into Money Matters, here's how you can do that.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
And now we're going to have a chat with our featured guest, Gary R. Miller of the Miller Financial Group. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks
Glad
for coming.
to be here.
So, Miller Financial Group, I understand, is a financial advisory company, and also you've had an insurance agency in the past. I just wanted to, before we get into it, just point out in Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin started the first fire insurance company in the country, maybe the world.
Yes.
So insurance is a great part of Philadelphia. So, but we're not here just to talk about insurance or financial advisory. You're a published author.
Yes.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, quite an experience. back in the fall of 2015, I decided I was really going to be serious about a goal. And so I was determined in 2016 that I was going to realize my goal. And I know when you talk about goal setting, not all goals are always accomplished. So I was very determined in my life to reach this goal.
Okay.
Did you learn some of that discipline with at West Point?
I hope I did. I would give a lot of credit to my mother and father, but I think the discipline, I think everybody has discipline built into them. It's just, as I listened to you, Jim, when you used the word passion, I think you have to be passionate, not just about your goals, but I think you have to be passionate about who you are and what you represent, because you carry around your own personal brand.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Why don't you tell people a little bit about Taming Chaos, which is the title of your book?
Interesting. Well, chaos is a play on words. If you look at the letters of chaos, CH stands for choices.
Oh.
A is about, O is the objective, and S is the subjective. So I incubated my vision when I was teaching at Temple a course called Introduction to Risk Management.
Okay.
So one of my reasons for writing the story was to hopefully teach young people about how to manage risk.
How young? What do you define as young?
Well, a
in
middle
this book?
school teenager. So
okay.
Interestingly enough, when I was researching how to write a book, they said you got to write it at the 5th grade reading level. And you know, some will accelerate beyond that, but currently I'm in 11 schools, and the middle school students are the ones that are enjoying it. So I think I was given some good advice.
Yeah. When was the book published?
It came out the end of February.
Oh, very new.
Yes, it is. I was fortunate to get up to West Point and have my public release there. And I'm even an Amazon bestseller now.
Okay.
Could you show us the viewers the cover of your book?
Hold the book and
Sure.
Sure, yeah. Picture of a dog, fictitious dog.
And how would somebody find out about you and your book? On the internet or?
Yes,
website?
it's currently on all the online bookstores,
Okay.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Very good.
So it's
Kindle?
Kindle, can be
Excellent.
downloaded. Yes, it's electronic as well.
Since you run an insurance business, tell the viewers there has to be a connection between writing this book, which is your goal, and your insurance business. There has to be some kind of a connect.
You're correct, Jim. When we talk about the nature of risk, risk is uncertainty, and as a retail broker, many of the services and products that we offer to our clients are designed to protect against the risk of loss.
Okay.
And when you manage risk, you really only have 3 choices. You avoid it, you control it, or you finance it. So insurance is really a risk financing method. And so what I wanted to do was try to do a better job in the education business, because I think our industry really fails quite often in being transparent and educating the public, because right now the consumer, their only metric when they buy insurance is to make sure they have enough premium in their checkbook when they write the check.
And then I get the policy and I get all this fine print that I can't understand, and I just have to trust you that I'm doing the right thing.
And the funny thing about it, Paul, is that when I first came into the industry, we were always told this is an easy to read document. Come on, who are you kidding?
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, when I got a chance to take a look at the book, and I was curious. The reason why I looked was I thought that you would use the dog as a metaphor, especially a wounded dog, as a metaphor to human suffering.
Well, at the end of the story, at the epilogue, as Carly, Jimmy, and the family go through their decision-making process, teaching young people today that decisions do have consequences, because I do feel that our decisions determine our destiny. The choice that they chose was to make sure and ensure life for the dog who was wounded. And so their next following mission is to encourage adoption of the dog, rather than the typical option when you send a dog off to the kill shelter.
I see. Okay. Okay.
Gary, do you have any thoughts about why many teen decisions are customarily framed with their emotional and subjective complex?
Good question, Paul. I think in my study, I'm not a researcher, but in my reading and study, I think you both would agree that we are normally, our nature, emotional. We many times will make decisions with our gut instincts. You can take a look at the general population. When they're surveyed in polling data, it's usually an emotional outcome. So I know it's harder work when you make decisions to pause, gather some time, and maybe include some quantitative. When you talked about prospecting, I think one of the failures of young entrepreneurs or business people, when they think about prospecting, they become influenced emotionally rather than thinking of it as also quantitatively. It's the law of large numbers. And when you have a universe that's defined, you have to make sure that, I think you were suggesting this, Paul, we have to be accountable to that discipline. And if you don't set down specific goals that are going to tangibly, when you're starting a business, reaching those revenues that are your targets, then you're really totally relying upon emotion and not also including the quantitative. And the quantitative is a lot harder work, as young people find that very.
Have you gotten much feedback yet from young people in terms of the
Yes,
lessons of the book?
it's interesting. Matter of fact, next week I will be opening up a series in a high school that's called the Summer Academic Enrichment. So I'm going to be speaking there about decision making. I also had the opportunity to talk to over 100 sixth grade students, and we created these decision making scenarios that are really socially appropriate for that age group. And I was really amazed that, you know, you make some assumptions about their thought process, but they are very critical thinkers. They really are. And I even had to read aloud, because it was the day I was there was called the World Read Aloud Day. And I think reading, getting them back into the library, I think those are universal skills. And when you look at education, too often I feel that we are focused on the STEM subjects, where I think there are life skills that need to find a way back into the classroom. And a lot of the superintendents that I spoke to agree.
Yeah, and they have to read. People have to read to get those life skills.
Amen. Amen.
I'm obviously a supporter of the humanities. You know, I just read the entire complete Greek tragedies, the University of Chicago, complete 4 set of Greek tragedy volumes.
Congratulations.
But before I get off the track, why not focus on adults? Why teenagers? There must be a reason.
Well,
you pick your target.
Yes, I wanted to skip a generation because I found many students that were considering business in a business major.
Oh,
Marketing, finance, accounting,
right.
traditionally. We had to actually recruit from the freshmen and sophomores to fill the seats in risk management. So the high school educational curriculums were not exposing them to risk management and insurance, even in their fundamental, maybe consumer finance. So I wanted to skip a generation, create a family discussion, so to speak, around the kitchen table. As children become interested in a subject or in an activity like baseball, the parents have to get read up on it, and then the parents become educated through their children. So maybe we could start increasing those that maybe are thinking about insurance and risk management as a business discipline. You know, Temple is the largest undergraduate population in risk management and insurance.
Oh.
And we also have tied to it an actuarial science program. So the science of actuarial studies is often, you know, I think math teachers today are not sharing that as a possibility.
I see. So you are not exactly a fiction writer. You are a fiction writer with a cause. You
Yes,
have
I
a
am.
very specific focus on a certain discipline, insurance
And
and risk management.
you know, from a business development, you know, other tasks when you are branding your business, I felt as the principal of the practice, it might not be a bad idea in my later years when I start to turn over the operation to my 3rd generation daughter.
Right, right.
it would
Right.
be of help.
I understand that the Dean of West Point has invited you to come back in the fall.
Yes, it's really interesting. I met with the dean when I was up there for the book signing, and it's the first female dean in the history of West Point.
Really?
And Cindy Jebb, and she said this might fit into the cadet character, honor instruction, leadership development, because decision making is both objective but subjective. And I think decision making is certainly one of the connections to good decisions, is to understand that it does draw upon who we are, what is our character, and certainly in the military way, the ultimate consequence could mean the loss of human life. So I think decision makers and military leaders need to be in tune with not just themselves, but they have to understand the mission and the health and welfare of their soldiers that they're leading.
And above all, they need to empathize.
To me, Jim, I often tell my staff that that is probably the most important character trait, because you have to put yourself in the shoes of others, especially with the intangible concept where insurance and risk are intangible.
Right. Agree.
Gary, any closing thoughts? We're starting to run out of time a little bit, but in terms of the lessons of the book and what's your intent with that, what would be success for you in terms of?
Well, for me,
the book?
I think success would be to broaden the educational knowledge of the nature of risk. It's often misunderstood. You take a look at the healthcare debate, I think we have the perfect storm. We have two planes, the lawmakers and the stakeholders talking over the head of the consumers. And I think we have to fundamentally just realize that it's going to take a lot of education to have meaningful reform.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly an important issue, and appreciate this kind of a novel, creative way of approaching it and making it of interest to young people who normally wouldn't want to, I guess, probably deal with such a seemingly serious subject. So thank you very much, Gary. Really
Thank you very much,
appreciate
Paul. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Our next guest will be Matrini Simatupang. She's she's an indie fashion designer, and she calls her designing a company Batax, B-A-T-A-X collection. So thank you for joining us, and remember, your money matters.